Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen calling in from the tropical island of St. Bart's, and you are listening to Light Talk.
This is Zach coming to you from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and you are listening to Light Talk.
Coming to you direct from Nashville, Tennessee, this is Dennis. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
And Sister.
That's right, Ellen. You sound like a game show host. Welcome, everyone, to episode 467. And today we are chatting with Melody Tsang and Caleb Franke.
Woo!
Ellen, why don't you tell us a little bit about Melody and Caleb?
I'd be happy to. Melody Tsang is an award-winning creative director and producer whose work transforms live events into immersive sensory experiences. Her unique design perspective is rooted in lifelong immersion in the arts. Raised in Asia by a mother who was a professional singer, Melody spent her formative years behind the scenes at international stages. This early exposure, paired with her formal training in fine arts and fashion design at Parsons School of Design, along with touring globally for over a decade, has allowed her to blend technical production with a sophisticated, diverse, and multidisciplinary aesthetic. Today, she is recognized as a visionary force in the industry, recently earning the Most Creative Use of Light Award at LDI 2025 for her work with Elation Professional. Throughout her career, she has brought her signature fusion of storytelling and style to her productions for iconic artists including Demi Lovato, Alanis Morissette, and Romeo Santos. Whether she is designing for a world tour or an avant-garde showcase, Melody's work is defined by an innovative edge that honors the deep emotional connection between the performer and the audience. And Caleb Franke is the Vice President of Design and Operations of Illuminate Production Services, a live event production company founded by his father, Rick Franke, nearly 20 years ago. Having grown up in the family business, Caleb has been involved in live production since childhood and began operating lighting consoles at just 7 years old. Over the years, he has developed a strong reputation in lighting design and programming, working on large-scale productions including the Seattle Space Needle New Year's Eve show. In addition to major events, he is deeply involved in the House of Worship production space and continues to help lead the operations and creative direction of the company he and his dad have built together. At LDI 2025, Melody and Caleb collaborated in designing Elation's booth and raised the bar, setting a new benchmark. Welcome to Light Talk. We're
Thank you.
glad to have you both here today.
That was a cool introduction.
You guys have some nice credits. I think we should kick it off with the award that you won. Almost 14,000 of my closest friends and I experienced what you did at the LDI show at the Elation product demonstration. Melody, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about how you landed the project and what your design process was to win this award.
Well, one, I didn't even know that LDI gave out awards. So when when they told me, and I was already on a flight out of Vegas, they were like, "Oh, we won an award." I was like, "We won an award? How cool is that?" No, but I guess I was at dinner with John Dunn of Elation, and we were just chatting, and he was saying how they just wanted to do something different, and we were talking about it, and he was like, "Well, would you want to do something like this? I know it's not really like, concerts or like a big live show, but it seems like something cool if you want to do it." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds great."
But you guys did like a mini Vegas show. There was acrobatics, there was tribal dancing, there were 4,000 lights. I mean, it was quite a show.
It was. I mean, well, also for me, like I was a bit of a crossroads of my own career. Like I had recently just gone freelance for myself, and so when John Dunn, mentioned it, I was like, okay, this might be like, my coming out kind of party. So I really had a chip on my shoulder of like, okay, how do we do this? And like, how do we make this really cool? And he had mentioned that they had I think three fixtures that they were really trying to feature this time around. And the initial idea was to do like vignettes of how those fixtures, would light sort of different elements in a show. So it was like, someone walking on the runway as like a fashion show, and then maybe they would have like a Vegas showgirl element, and then like a rock and roll kind of thing. So it was broken up into like three very different looks. And so once I was brought on, I just kind of dived deeper into that concept and felt like maybe we needed to have like a storyline or a narrative to kind of connect all these different elements. And then I just started getting a bit carried away and thinking that, we just needed to have have all types of things there that we could make happen. So that's kind of where that came from.
So once you had the design, how did that work, Caleb? You created the lighting design to match the art direction, or what was your process?
Yeah, so it's funny, and I'm very thankful that Melody was brought to the table on this project, because when I initially started talking to Eric Loader, who was kind of my connection to doing LDI, known Eric a long time, the initial idea was we're going to do a runway catwalk, and like each fixture series is going to have its own character that walks up, or we might be able to do this thing where like even people could like walk the runway, and it's like some setting for one of the series of fixtures, whether it's Paragon or Rebel or whatever. And so in my head, I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And I didn't know Melody was involved.
I don't think I was involved at that point. I was kind of brought in a little bit later.
Yeah. So I did some initial designs really early on in like June, I think, or I think it was July actually. And it was all based on this, runway catwalk and, all the different fixtures and whatever. And then I ended up getting the job, and our company built the booth as well. So I designed and programmed it, but our company, set it all up per se. So that was fun. But it was interesting because we had this design, and in my head, I'm like, how, what is going to organize this? Because this could be interesting. And then I find out that Melody is a part of it. So that was great. And then with her creative direction and our meetings and what it was then, transforming into was super exciting, and ended up being this like Vegas spectacular kind of show. But I think it was amazing because it brought a lot of like context to flashing lights and colors and whatnot. It's not just like, oh, hey, look, it's a light and it moves up and down and it changes color. It's like, oh, wow, look at it on a person in a setting that's like a stage that we all work in all the time. So it was a really fun time. So it was fun working with Melody on it.
Oh,
Had you two worked together before?
no, first time.
Nope.
So you met on this project?
Yeah, we met on this project.
Cool.
It was funny. Yeah, I think because we didn't talk until the design was like done.
Yeah.
But also it's LDI and a manufacturer, so the design's never done until like the week before. So it kept morphing and changing based off of, what fixture types were available and were ready and all that kind of fun stuff. I felt like it was a very unique process, but Melody brought to the table what she wanted to do and the creative direction throughout the show, and kind of just brought it to life.
Well, it's funny because I looked at your sketch, like, because they sent me the stuff that you had, like the whole deck that you had put together. So when I sketched what I sort of thought, like how I saw the show happening, it was actually based off of your initial kind of you know what I mean? Like, because you had the runway, you had the screens there already. And then, like you had the sketches of the people walking up and down. So I was like, okay, this is what we have to work with. So now how do I build this world and the lights and everything to fit this new narrative that now has to go in there. Like, where can I put, the hoop for the aerialist, and like how do they get in and out, and how does this all work? So, yeah, it was a really, I'd never done anything like this before, and like it was a fun collaboration, because at least for me, like, I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, these guys are trying to sell lights. So, like, at the end of the day, I got to make those lights look good. So, to me, if people just stand there and watch the full show with their mouth hanging open and like forget that they're at LDI for 10 minutes, then to me, that's the job halfway done, because they're going to be like, oh shit, like, how amazing do those lights look? Those are the new products. Like, how do we make our show look like that? And then it kind of rolls into the next questions of like, let's find someone to talk to and like learn more about the products.
But the fabulous thing about it was a true industrial show. I mean, a lot of the booths at LDI, they're showing off products in the way an industrial show would, but you had created a script and a storyline. And I mean, the fact that you just said aerialist should tell our audience just how extensive this thing was, when you have semi-naked people being hauled up to the rafters.
Well, and forget about the semi-naked people. How long was it? Did you have an idea of how long you wanted this event to take place, or did Elation say it's got to be X amount of time?
Well, or did you just want to know how long the semi-naked person was in terms of or just the whole show?
No,
I've got the semi-naked person on my phone, so no, I've got that timed out. It felt much. It felt longer in a good way, or it was certainly more entertaining than the other shows I was seeing. So I mean, I felt like I was there for a substantial amount of time, but it was all good time. And then when it was over, I was looking at my wristwatch going, when do they start again?
Oh, that's nice.
We had to stick to, the LDI rules of, how long you can have a show and how often.
This is your chance to petition Ellen if you need to have those changed.
Well, so the funny thing is, they said that they had 10 minutes. And I know that, when we first started talking about it, there was a lot of information that they needed to fit into those 10 minutes. So they gave me 7 minutes for the actual like performance part of it.
Okay.
And I definitely, I think 7 minutes was good. Honestly, Elation was pretty, like, they were very accommodating to like a lot of the crazy ideas that I was throwing at them. So we did 7 minutes of actual performance, and then there was 3 minutes for the actual informational session. But I didn't want to lose the audience, so I figured, to me, 3 minutes straight of information is a little bit boring. So I suggested that we break it up as like, maybe 45 seconds of it was in the beginning, where we kind of introduce what we're about to see and the products that you're going to see used. And then the more heavy informational stuff would come at the very end. So there would only be around 1.5 to 2 minutes of it. So it at least the flow of it kept everything moving within that 10 minutes. And then obviously with, everything that Caleb did, it was just visually stunning. So like, I kept looking at the audience during the show, and like, people did not leave. Like, people would come for the show, stay the entire time all the way through till we said, thank you very much. Now, like, go talk to one of our representatives.
I'm sure that anybody in our audience that wasn't able to go to LDI, if you go on YouTube or somewhere online, you'll see this show, because it was pretty spectacular, and it's worth looking at. I'll tell you. I went back and saw the show 3 or 4 times, to be honest.
That's great. I
I'll
love
add
that.
one of the things that is sort of the subtext of this is, we've talked several times on our show about how you go to these different trade shows and you see these things kind of out of context. So you see a light fixture that's just on some random surface, and it doesn't really tell you how that's going to work when you bring it into your venue or you use it in your show. So even though you're creating this thrilling and engaging thing that has audiences transfixed, you're actually also giving them an opportunity to see these things with real world use. which is great.
Yes,
Totally.
Caleb, did you program on an Obsidian console or something else?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Obsidian.
How was that?
Yeah. It was quite the experience. I'm an MA programmer. I came from Vista when I was
Okay.
younger. I actually came from I don't know if any of you were familiar with like CompuLive or CompuWare back in like the early 2000s, but I was on that at a very young age, and then I moved to Vista. Was on that for quite a few years, and then MA2, MA3, and then doing LDI. Obviously, Elation sells the Obsidian line, so they wanted it programmed on their consoles. So I was like, yeah, well, I'll figure it out. Well, let's do this. And so started. I knew a little bit about it. I mean, in some ways, all consoles are a little bit the same in how they work with a command line based console. But I started learning it in September, and Elation really helped the process and get me going quick on it, and I made it happen. So it was different, and it's a very different console than MA. It wasn't a bad experience. There was a learning curve for sure. I had to have a lot of patience, and I'm really glad I stuck with it because I think it paid off really well, and it was cool that it ended up, producing an award-winning show, right? I think sometimes people tend to think the lighting designer, obviously there's lighting designers, but I have to have this console in order for it to be good. Well, it's not, the console is not the designer, it's the person running it. And so I think that was a really cool moment, and there was a lot of conversation around that. People would come up to the booth and be like, hey, are you using this? And it's like, yeah. They're like, wow, that's crazy. And just kind of like it was blowing some people's minds, which was kind of cool. But it created a lot of great conversation around that too.
Did you do a lot of previs or pre-programming, and how many hours on site did you think you programmed?
Yeah, that there was probably over 50 to 60 hours of previs time that went into it. Maybe even a little bit more, just because I was also learning at the same time. And then on site, there wasn't much programming we did on site other than just cleaning things up. We made some front light adjustments while we were on site, making sure that was good. With LDI, I think we only had like 4 or 5 hours the day before with haze.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
So it was like, we have haze and then it's just go time. We got to get this thing looking good. So I think altogether on site, I maybe spent 6 to 10 hours probably tuning some things up. But previs worked really well. The other thing with LDI and with working with the manufacturer is, they have these products that they're trying to release. These products are also getting built in the factories, and you're not sure if you're gonna get them in time to do the show. So you're building something, building this experience. Melody's got all this great visual stuff that she wants to happen, and in the back of my head, I'm going, okay, we can do this, we can do that. But this is what am I going to do if this fixture isn't going to show up and we have to swap it in for another fixture that's nothing like it? So there was all these like plan B things in my head over the time we were really putting this together, of like, what are we going to do if we don't get this in time? Or what are we going to do? I think it was a month before Elation contacted me, and they were like, hey, so we have a light done that we weren't expecting to have done, and we need to put it on the booth now. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So we put that in, and we didn't want it to look like it was a last minute ad. We wanted it to look like it was all a cohesive look. So sort of following that road and the train of the manufacturer and what they're trying to do, or what they're trying to get done, and they obviously have limitations on their side with manufacturing and the factories. It was quite the process, but it was a lot of fun.
How much time did you guys have with the performers?
I had more than Caleb did. Because I was in Vegas before Alanis' show, and so I had 4 days of rehearsal with them, but to make sure that they had the choreography down, so that I could videotape it and send it to Caleb so he could program to it. So I think, at least for me, for a 7-minute show, I felt like we moved along pretty well. with like previs and everything else, like you would never have known that Caleb was working on a console that he had never really programmed on before. And when he sent me that first pass at the full 7 minutes, I was like, oh, this is like, even if we do nothing to it right now, we have a show. So I wasn't that worried at that point.
It felt like a big show. I mean, it's not like you have a 40-foot by 30-foot stage up there, but it felt very substantial.
Yes. So for me going into it, I definitely looked at it as I designed it as a rock and roll show. I didn't think of it as a little trade show. I was just like, how do we keep people here? That was kind of like my main priority.
I'm going to change subjects here for a second, and if this is a good time, but to lead into Parsons School and how that whole thing impacted you to get you to this position in life. I mean, you woke up one day and said, this is what I'm going to do.
Going to design school or just wanting to be in rock?
Both.
I mean, it was kind of an accident to go to design school. I was just really didn't know what I wanted to do. I could draw and I didn't like studying and I didn't like homework. And my mom just was like, I don't care what you do. You just have to get a degree. So that was like, okay, cool. I'll go to art school, and realize that art school and design school are very, very, very different. But I really love that, like, design school really taught me to like take criticism and feedback, and I think really prepped me for what I do now, because you just become not too married to any idea and open to people sort of not sometimes being like, oh, well, I like this or I don't like this, and you don't take anything really that personally. So I loved design school for that reason.
What was the first thing you did as launching yourself as a creative director?
It kind of just happened. Like, I didn't even realize I was doing it, because I actually I was hired into a company called Fireplay. I was hired as a producer, and as we kind of went along, every now and then I would throw out an idea or help with a creative deck, and just found that people were gravitating towards my ideas more and more, until one day my former boss was like, "Yo, well, why don't you try doing this?" And I just took it and ran with it. And then realized afterwards, I was like, oh, so I guess I was creative director. They were like, yep. I'm like, okay, cool. So I guess the first one that I did on my own was Demi Lovato in 2022, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. When she was doing her.
Quite a launch.
When she was doing smaller venues, though, but it was really fun because it was like a departure from like the pop stuff that she normally did. So this one was like her punk rock era. And so I didn't really realize I was doing it, but I just sketched what I sort of saw listening to her music, and then ended up pitching it to her. She loved it, and then we kind of just took it and ran with it. And then that turned into getting people to build the set, and then having people program the lights, and then we had a show.
And I guess, Caleb, the same question. How did you, just one day you went, okay, this is it, and here I go?
I kind of grew up in our family business. My dad has always had something to do with production. Really, I mean, since I was born, I guess. And my dad said that at 2 years old, I'd sit and watch him program lights. And as a 2-year-old, I would just sit there and just be mesmerized, and just like, what 2-year-old has an attention span, longer than just a few minutes? And he said I'd be sitting there for hours just watching. And so kind of from a young age, I just was really intrigued by it. My dad started at his company about 20 years ago, actually 20 years ago, this year now. And I just kind of grew up in it. I think there's a lot of us where we just kind of say the industry chose us. I didn't really choose it. It kind of just chased after me, and I really liked it. I've always just had this drive to, do what I do today. And whether it's designing shows or programming shows or just operating a business and getting to work with people. So, I've been around it kind of a long time for how young I am still. Obviously, I have a ton to learn still, and but I don't know. I kind of am just taking it a day at a time, and it's been a fun journey.
I usually, when I'm hiring a programmer, they'll say, "Okay, yeah, I'll be the programmer, but I have to have an MA or I have to have a Apex or an Ion or whatever." I stand in amazement that you did this show we saw at LDI on a console you never worked with before, programming lights that you didn't even know existed that were coming off the assembly line, and you seem to be able to do a number of different consoles and just like roll with the punches. Did you have any kind of formal education or anything that prepared you for this other than the family business?
No, I didn't. I mean, I went to high school, graduated high school. I didn't go to college.
Did you do theater in high school?
I didn't. One of the unique things I did do though was I was a part of a show, a touring show called the Thorn for a long time. But since the time I was about 14 until a couple of years ago, so I did about a 10-year run with them. It's called the Thorn, Thorn. It's a really unique kind of theater show. The best way to oddly describe it is it's like Passion of the Christ meets Cirque du Soleil meets Jackie Chan. It's basically a theatrical show that tells the story of Jesus, but like very much more in like the Cirque way with acrobats and lots of flashing lights. And I started doing that when I was 14. And I think that show really helps tune my eye for a live setting of lighting or even just what LDI kind of was. So I grew up doing that show as the lighting designer. Somehow the producers thought it'd be a good idea to put a 14-year-old in charge of the lights. And it kind of worked out. It was cool.
Caleb, I just looked that up online. Unbelievable. That's great stuff. My God, that's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's
Pretty good for child labor.
It's really cool. It tours. It's all over the country. Yeah, right. So I was still in high school at the time, so I missed a lot of school, and I think my teachers didn't like me for that. I ended up doing homeschool later on in my high school years, but what's funny is that when we were in the middle of doing the LDI show portion, there was some moments that were coming back to me from doing that show all those years that I did it, that were very similar in like looks, like with the whole acrobat scene melody.
Yeah.
There's a scene in that show that's very much like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like I was pulling tools from other things that I've done, and it was like, oh, this feels like I'm doing Thorn again in some ways.
Well, actually, I have a question about that process of like, when you first started to program this show, were you thinking like, okay, we need to showcase the lights? Were you thinking like more corporate showcase before you sort of switched to, oh, this is like more like Thorn, more like show, more like Cirque type thing? Because I feel like initially there was a little bit of hesitation, like, okay, how are we going to do this? But then like once we got into it, there was like a moment where it clicked, and I'm like, I don't know what he was worried about because this looks freaking fantastic.
That's a really good question. I think in my head, what I was trying to process was, hey, okay, we're all here to sell lights. And usually when people go to a show, it's all about the person on the stage. We're in a place here where we're going to put people on the stage, and yes, they need to look good. There needs to be attention there. But the lights need to be in such a way to where they need to really capture attention, because that's what we're selling, right? So there was different fixture types and different fixture types, different new products that they were really trying to push. And with your creative direction, I was like, okay, how are we going to apply this to this? Or how are we going to make, whatever fixture it was, the Rebel lines look good with this setting? And so as you were creative in your just, mind of dreaming up what you were dreaming up, I was trying to figure out in the technical sense and in the, the very specific fixture types that Elation was pushing, how to implement those into your creative design, right? And so I think initially my approach with it was obviously this is all about the lights. We need to have some context. There's going to be some sort of person. But the more you were pushing people, I was like, okay. So yeah, they need to have attention, but what are we going to do over here? So it was more of a processing thing for me of like, okay, how are we going to find the balance here? Because we need balance. And so I don't know. I guess that was sort of me just processing. Sorry if I sounded hesitant.
No, it was just funny because there was, I'll be honest, there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, like where I think we might be speaking two different languages right now. Like I
For
don't
sure.
know.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah, there
I
was
know
a
I
moment of
get it.
that.
Yeah,
I
no,
do
there
remember
definitely
that.
was. I remember that call and I was afterwards, I was like, oh, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't think he gets me and I don't know if I get him. And we're like, how are we gonna put this, like, it's all about the lights. What are we gonna do?
Somehow we figured it out. And what's interesting too is like I didn't want it to be all about the lights either, because that's what all the other booths are at LDI usually. It's all about the lights and that it pans and it tilts and it has gobos, and it's kind of like, okay, it's cool that people are making that technology, but like that we are here to do something completely different that people haven't seen either ever at LDI or for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I was really excited to do something different. And in the process, I was just like, man, I've attended LDI for quite a few years. Like this, there's nothing, I haven't seen anything like this. This is going to be interesting to see, how this, what the response is to this. And the
Mhm.
response was pretty cool. I mean, every show we had a crowd, every
Yes.
single show. And even on so day 3 of LDI, we didn't have performers, but we still ran the show.
Mhm.
You weren't there. I think you had already left.
No, yeah, I had already left.
There was still people watching, and it was just like,
Well, I told
this is
you, I
really
was
cool.
watching the previs. I was like, I was enthralled even with no people on there. I thought it looked great.
So when I sent that too, I honestly, I thought you were going to have a lot more changes or, tweaks that we needed to do to it. I was shocked how like all about it you were in the first go around with it. I was honestly expecting for you to like nitpick it apart and like, hey, we got to change this, we got to change that, but it was like, it was really close. There was a few little things, but it wasn't like this drastic, hey, you're going in the wrong direction here.
No,
That
no,
was
no,
kind of
no.
shocking to me.
Really? No, I was like,
Yes. I was totally expecting it.
Is the band going to get together again?
Great question, Steve.
We shall see. We shall see.
no, I think it really, because if I look back on this process, like this really was a milestone because I think for me, it's just so different, because yes, like I normally do like in a rock and roll show, you have an artist. So you already have that point of focus of like, okay, we need to make the artist look good. It's their music, it's their point of view, and like everything else supports that focus. Whereas now for the Elation thing, it was about the lights. There was, I could put whoever I wanted on that stage, didn't know how that was going to turn out. And so it was like creatively, you could kind of go in whatever direction you wanted to. And it was really interesting because, even talking to some of the higher ups, there was a lot of hesitation there initially because I was selling an idea that didn't exist yet. Like I was sending pictures and sketches, but like there was really nothing tangible to look at until Caleb started, with previs, and then like bits of content started coming through. We got really, really close to the actual show day. So I think I honestly I loved the whole process. I was super proud.
The other like fun little twist in it all was having lasers involved too, because that
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of in the midst of all that Elation was going to do lasers now
Yep.
with X laser, and so that was a whole aspect of this too. Like, how do we bring lasers into this in such a way that no one has ever really seen before at LDI? I mean, everyone's seen lasers, but how are
Yep.
we going to make it unique to our show, right? And
Yep.
then the whole fabric deal with the dancer that you had put together was great, super unique.
Yeah, but you were there for the calls. The first couple of calls, I was fighting an uphill battle because everybody was like, "Yeah, but that's going to be boring if it's just slow music for 2 to 3 minutes." And I was like, "No, you have to trust me. She's going to be half naked. She's going to be beautiful. It's going to be intense and sexy and moody, and then we'll keep it moving." I'm like, "Trust me."
Trust the process, right?
Yeah.
Trust the process.
And then that conversation turned into the Latin music in the second half too. So it was just like there was some fun hurdles along the way.
It all worked out. We figured it out.
How are the lights? You like them?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny because Elation kind of came around when our business started, so we got in as dealers with them really early on.
Okay.
And so I've kind of like, our company has done a lot with them through the years, and we've built a really good relationship. And so, obviously Elation has really grown to be a more professional grade line of lighting fixtures. And I love their products. The Paragon series that they have out right now is fantastic. The quality of light that comes out of those fixtures is just, it's gorgeous. With, there's kind of getting technical now, but with the CRI adjustments and just how dialed you can get them, they're a beautiful light. And then they were really pushing the Rebel series. They expanded their Rebel series of fixtures a lot at LDI with the Rebel lines, the darts, and the washes, the 12 and the 4. And so those I had never seen before, because they were new to LDI. And so I kind of heard what they could do, and obviously I had the previs fixture profiles to do what I needed to do with those. But they were great. They looked really nice. I think I was really happy with everything. Even the KL battens, which is a new fixture that they released, is bright as all get out. I love the brand. I love the people over there. And it was great.
But while you're talking about the technical aspects, a two-part question for you, Caleb. How do you stay up to date with all the technology? And what do you think the necessary development in lighting technology is going to be?
How do you stay up to date? Technology moves so fast, as we all know. Obviously, social media kind of shows you what's going on and what's out there. Having conversations with industry friends to kind of know what's going on out there. Yeah, it honestly, one of like the biggest challenges I think sometimes is just staying up on like where technology is going, what's new, how do I need to continue to, either reinvent myself or develop myself to be able to stay up with what is going on in the lighting industry, not only just what fixtures are being used or what consoles are being used or what previs is being used, but also what looks good. Right? Because as times go on and times change, design and the creative elements kind of change with it. That's kind of there's ebbs and flows to the creative as well over time. So I don't know. You just got to like not live under a rock and just be out there and see things and watch videos online and talk to people. I think that's one of the best ways to stay up on what's happening and what's going on in the industry.
And go to LDI.
Sure.
Go to LDI, right?
There you go.
And then where I think some things are moving in terms of technology, I think the LILI engine, with, I don't know how familiar you guys are with that. Forget what the acronym is for, but it's basically a laser, it's a laser engine
light,
in lighting fixtures. Yeah. That is really interesting right now. A lot of manufacturers are trying to push that direction, and I understand why. It's a great way to produce really good light, and it just goes. It throws like crazy, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of develops in the industry, because obviously, especially in the United States, lasers and laser permits and licenses and variances it's a complex thing that I know a lot of people are trying to figure out and suss out, but like, there's LILI engines in car headlights. Like it's kind of going everywhere right now in terms of these laser light engines.
It's actually a laser illuminated lighting instrument.
There you go.
LILI. And it's
There you go.
interesting because at LDI, they sort of have to meet the same laser rules as the actual laser fixtures when it comes to intensity and where they're shown and not getting in people's eyes. And they treat them as lasers.
But I think the industry is trying to move more in that direction. It'll be interesting to see, how all that gets worked out, especially, in the US, and, LDI obviously has to follow all that stuff. And so that is a really fun thing that's happening. And I love the quality of light it actually produces, especially in beam fixtures. It's really clean and really crisp, especially in an outdoor element or even just really big indoor spaces. The beam just goes and it doesn't fall off like light usually does over, distance. It gets dimmer because it's a laser. It's different laws that apply to a laser. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
So I have to ask this question for David Jack, who is our Lumen brother who's not here today, who believes that the industry is on the verge of having a AI you talk to console. Give me blue, give me R80 at 50%, whatever, and you talk to it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen, I think. I have mixed feelings about AI. I think AI is a really great tool. I don't think AI is something that's just like, okay, AI now does everything for us. I think as humans, we create, right? That's a just no matter the industry, there's creation, right? Like us humans create stuff all the time. And I think as long as we can use AI as a tool to help us to continue to create, that's a really healthy place to be in with AI. And so I think, when it comes to AI in consoles or in our lighting industry, having the ability for AI to be a really great tool for us to do things faster or easier or whatever it may be, create awesome experiences in a more efficient way. I think that's really exciting. It'll be interesting to see over the next few years kind of what happens there. But it's very interesting to me.
So you don't want a console that I can walk up to and say, hey, did you see that show at LDI a few years ago that Caleb did? Could you use his color palette, please?
All right, do that.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I don't know. I just like that's cool, but like I don't know. Humans creating things is cool too. And then like what happens? Like then we just have AI base everything off of stuff that humans did a long time ago. Like we got to keep creating. I don't know.
Melody, what about on your design side of things? Are there AI tools you're using?
I agree with Caleb. I have a love-hate relationship sort of with AI as well, as long as I think it's used as a tool. It's great and not as a crutch. I am not very technologically savvy, so I still sketch with pen and paper. And
I
I
have
have
mad respect for that, by the way. I think that is awesome.
Thank you. It's
Very
actually been
cool.
a bit of a insecurity of mine, just because with technology moving as fast as it does, that I can't, do things in AutoCAD or I can't get things in digitally as fast. But there's just something about the texture of paper and the way a pen or pencil or, erasing something or like just something about that, um, the tactileness of it that like really inspires me and like gets me sketching and like gets the ideas flowing. So, um, yeah, I have tried using AI to like do renders or like kind of just put prompts in to see what it pops up as. And it definitely spits out some weird shit. Like sometimes it's
Yes.
cool. You're like, okay, wow, I really didn't think it was gonna go there or like interpret it this way. And that's interesting. But yeah, I kind of use it as a sounding board a lot of the times and just to see kind of what kind of ridiculousness sometimes will pop back up. Um, yeah, but for the most part, I don't know. I'm a little timid with it for now. So yeah. I do think that in terms of design though, there has been a lot of people that I think might not necessarily have the production experience and can use AI to spit out a beautiful render. But if you have a beautiful render with no understanding of how rigging works or how much time you have for a load in or how anything is realistically going to fit within the parameters of a stage or the parameters of production, then it's just a pretty picture, like it doesn't really have it's not a real life thing. So I
Yeah.
think there's been a trend in that way of like maybe people that are not like everyone seems to be able to be a designer these days if they can just put a prompt in there and, get a concept out. So, yeah, I'm kind of back and forth with it. I don't know.
I love what you said though, that you're using it almost to like help you with like concepts
Yeah.
or ideas. Like that's using it as a tool. But like you said, if it's doing something for us, or like it doesn't understand the limitations. And
Yeah.
that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, it absolutely does not.
So, Dennis, shall we ask one last question? What advice would they give to the 19-year-old version of
I
themselves?
think so. Yeah.
I were 14 for Caleb.
Okay.
Someone who's aspiring to become a lighting designer or a scene designer or an art director. Melody, what would you tell them, coming out of school or not? What do they need to do to get where you are?
I don't know. I think just be okay with bumbling along. Like, I feel like a lot of times now, like, people kind of are very, like, results oriented, or they want like the destination and they want things quite fast. And sometimes it's so cliche, but it's just about the process. And sometimes when you don't
journey.
think exactly, and you might not think like, oh, like doing something is relevant to like my end point, but it all is relevant, like it makes you think a certain way. It helps you meet people. It's like you just really never know where it's gonna go. And so I think don't focus so much on like a destination that you think you want to get to, but just kind of, yeah, like ping pong around if you can.
Caleb, what would you tell a young person who wants to become a programmer or a lighting designer?
I think take it a day at a time. I love what Mel just said. But you got to be patient. I think with how social media is, and just that alone can cause people to just be like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that right now. I want to do that. Like, and you're constantly in your process of whatever it is that you're currently doing on your journey, but you're always looking at what someone else is doing and going, but I want to be doing that right now. I think all of that is just, I think that can be a distraction. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about someone else's journey. Just work on your own. Develop yourself. Develop your skills that you're working on, whether it be technical skills or personal skills. You got to just be patient and trust the process. And I think always have a mind that is willing to learn. There's lots of opinions in our industry, and I think being open to ideas and other ideas other than just your own opinion can be really healthy.
Great, wise advice, Caleb. Nicely done.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. And especially also just to piggyback off what Caleb said, but like, going back to him learning a freaking brand new console and like being open to like my crazy ideas, like just having that kind of patience, good attitude, and openness to like something different or something new or something potentially challenging and might take a little while. I mean, like, proof was in the pudding for us, like the whole process. And then, I'm so incredibly proud of what we put out.
Absolutely.
And it was such an amazing process to work with Caleb, and even with the challenges and like the things and, that we kind of overcame together. So I think a good attitude and a willingness to learn, like you said, is super, super appreciated and important.
Great answers.
Well, Melody and Caleb, thank you for taking the time to join us. This has been very, very, very good and insightful for our audience.
Thank you.
Well, the rockin' sounds of the Luminoids tell us once again you spent another Saturday morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way, you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, you will have to deal with me, Snoot from the Snoot Group. And don't get it twisted. Just because I married one of these losers does not mean I will go easy on you. So don't with me.
Thank you, Snoot. And my doggy thanks you as well. Today's Light Talk is coming to you from that Caribbean playground for the rich and famous, St. Bart's. From the Big D, the Lone Star State, the beautiful city on the Potomac River named for George Washington. From New York City, the entertainment capital of the world. From Sacramento, California. And I'm in the music capital of the Southeast, Nashville, Tennessee.
And be sure to join us next week when we dive into more lighting shenanigans and serve up a fresh, piping hot casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
We'll see you all next Saturday morning. Melody, Caleb, thank you very much for being here. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lumen Brothers.